right? So you think your job is hard? You sit in an office, air conditioning, coffee machine down the hall, ergonomic chair, laptop, Wi-Fi. You work from home twice a week. You've got Slack, email, Zoom meetings where you don't even turn your camera on half the time, and you complain about being burnt out. Let me tell you something, mate. Your great-grandfather woke up at 4 a.m. in a freezing cold house. No heating, no electricity, no hot water. He walked 2 hours to work. In the rain, in the snow. Didn't matter. Then he spent 12 hours hauling coal, or operating dangerous machinery, or doing jobs so mental they sound completely made up. And he did this 6 days a week, for pennies. No sick days, no HR department, no union protecting him. If he complained, he got sacked. Simple as that. So before you moan about your difficult job and your toxic work environment, let me show you what real work looked like. These are 21 forgotten British jobs that would absolutely destroy modern workers. Jobs so brutal, so dangerous, so mental, that people today wouldn't last a single shift. And by the end of this, you'll either appreciate your cushy modern job, or you'll realize you're soft as hell compared to your ancestors. Let's go. Right, first one. The knocker-upper. Before alarm clocks existed, and I mean affordable alarm clocks, not just clocks for rich people, working-class Brits needed a way to wake up for work. Miss your shift? You're sacked. No second chances. So someone created a job, the knocker-upper. These people were literally human alarm clocks. Every morning before dawn, we're talking 4 a.m., 5 a.m., they'd walk through working-class neighborhoods in northern England, armed with long sticks or pea shooters, and they'd wake people up by tapping on their bedroom windows. Or, and this is absolutely mental, shooting dried peas at the glass until someone woke up and acknowledged them. Imagine that today. You're asleep. Suddenly, tap, tap, tap. Or worse, peas smacking your window. You'd call the police, wouldn't you? File a harassment complaint. But back then, you paid for this service. A few pence a week. Because if you didn't wake up, you lost your job. And if you lost your job, your family starved. So the knocker-upper was essential. Now here's the question everyone asks. Who woke up the knocker-upper? Good question. Many of them were night watchmen finishing their shifts. They'd been up all night anyway, so they'd do the morning rounds before going home. Others were just insomniacs, early risers, people who couldn't sleep in. And they monetized it. Genius, really. The knocker-upper kept detailed mental records of which windows to tap and when. No spreadsheets, no apps, just memory. Mrs. Henderson, number 14, upstairs window, 4:30 a.m. Mr. Thompson, number 22, downstairs window, 5 a.m. Dozens of clients, all memorized. And they couldn't mess it up, because if someone missed work because the knocker-upper forgot them, they'd lose a customer and probably get a beating. This job survived into the 1950s. The 1950s. Your parents or grandparents might remember these people. And then gradually, as affordable alarm clocks became household staples, the profession died. Now we've got smartphones with 10 different alarm options, snooze buttons, gradual wake-up sounds, and people still can't get up on time. Your great-grandfather had a bloke shooting peas at his window, and he was at work by 5:30 a.m. You've got an iPhone, and you're late to your 10 a.m. Zoom call. Pathetic. Rag and bone. Any old iron. If you're old enough, you remember this cry echoing through British streets. The rag and bone man was Britain's original recycler. Decades before anyone cared about the environment or sustainability, these blokes traveled through neighborhoods with a horse and cart, collecting unwanted household items, old clothes, scrap metal, furniture, broken appliances, anything people didn't want. But here's what made them unique. They didn't just take your rubbish for free. They operated on a barter system. You give them your old rags or scrap metal, and in return, they might give you a goldfish in a plastic bag, a balloon, a small toy, a few pennies, maybe some donkey stones for cleaning your doorstep. It was recycling with carnival flair, mate. Kids absolutely loved the rag and bone man. They'd rummage through cupboards looking for stuff to trade, hoping to get a goldfish or a toy. And the rag and bone man knew his regular customers by name. He'd share neighborhood gossip, check in on elderly residents. He wasn't just collecting rubbish. He was part of the community. Now, what did he do with all this stuff? The rag part? Old clothes and fabric. He'd sell them to textile mills for recycling into new fabric or industrial rags. The bone part? Actual bones from meat. He'd sell them to factories that made glue, fertilizer, or gelatin. The scrap metal? Sold to foundries for melting down and reuse. Everything had value. Nothing was wasted. Compare that to today. We throw away tons of perfectly good stuff. It goes to landfills. We buy new things constantly. We claim to care about recycling, but most of us can't even be bothered to separate our bins properly. The rag and bone man did true recycling. With a horse and cart. No diesel van, no environmental grants, just hard work. The profession started declining in the 1970s as consumer culture took over and municipal waste collection improved. The last rag and bone men disappeared from British streets by the early 1980s. And we lost something, didn't we? Not just the service, but the personal connection, the community aspect. Now we just chuck everything in a bin and forget about it. This one's absolutely mental. Before automation, bowling alleys needed someone to manually reset the pins after every roll. That someone? Usually a teenager, earning pocket money. And the job? Legitimately dangerous. Here's how it worked. You'd be perched on a narrow ledge above the pins, waiting. Someone bowls. Pins go flying. You jump down, into the lane, grab the fallen pins, reset them in perfect formation. Then scramble back up to your ledge before the next ball comes hurtling toward you at high speed. If your timing was off, you'd get hit by a bowling ball. And these weren't the light plastic balls we have today. These were heavy, solid balls that could absolutely destroy you. Pin setters needed. Lightning-fast reflexes. Zero fear. A casual relationship with personal safety. The ability to work in hot, noisy conditions. For their troubles, they earned a few pennies per game. A few pennies. You're literally dodging bowling balls for pennies. But for schoolboys in the 1950s, it was one of the few ways to earn money. So they did it. Regular bowlers often developed relationships with their pin setters. Some would tip them for especially quick service. But the job was brutal, hot, loud, and if you mistimed your jump, bruised shins, broken bones, concussions. There are stories of pin setters getting knocked unconscious and having to be carried out. And they'd come back the next week because they needed the money. By the early 1960s, the Brunswick automatic pin setter started appearing in British bowling alleys. And by 1963, human pin setters were basically extinct. Now, bowling is a leisure activity. You press a button, pins reset automatically. You sip your overpriced beer and throw your ball. You don't think about the teenagers who used to risk their lives doing this manually. Modern workers wouldn't last one shift as a pin setter. Health and safety violation. Where's my protective equipment? I'm calling my union. Your great uncle just jumped in and dodged bowling balls for 4 hours straight. For pennies. And he didn't complain. Before central heating, British homes were heated by coal fires, which meant someone had to deliver the coal. Enter the coal delivery man. These blokes were built different, mate. Proper hard. A typical coal man would haul 50-kilogram sacks on his back. That's 110 pounds. Up narrow alleyways, steep garden paths, down into tight coal cellars. In all weather. Rain, snow, freezing cold, didn't matter. A single delivery round might involve moving several tons of coal by hand. No forklifts, no machinery. Just your back, your legs, and your will to survive. Coal men developed distinctive physical characteristics. Massive shoulders, arms like tree trunks, permanent coal dust embedded in their skin. No amount of washing could get it all off. The dust would stain their hands, their faces, their clothes. Many developed what were called coal tattoos, where coal dust became permanently embedded in cuts and scrapes on their hands. The dust would get into the wound, and when it healed, you'd have a permanent black mark. Like a tattoo. Coal men wore it like a badge of honor. With practice, they could flick a 50-kilogram sack off their shoulder and deposit the coal into a bunker with minimal spillage. Perfect technique, perfect control. They had to be strong, but also skilled. And the job absolutely destroyed your body. By the time coal men retired, if they made it that far, their backs were wrecked. Their knees were shot. Their lungs were damaged from years of coal dust. But they didn't complain. They just did the work. The profession started declining in the 1960s and 70s as gas and electric heating became common. The Clean Air Acts of 1956 and 1968, designed to reduce pollution, dealt the final blow. By the 1980s, coal delivery men were basically extinct. Now we've got central heating, thermostats, smart home systems that you control with your phone. You press a button and your house is warm. You don't think about the men who used to carry tons of coal on their backs to keep homes warm. And if you had to do that job today, you'd quit after one day. My back hurts. This is too heavy. Where's the lifting equipment? Your great-grandfather did it for decades. Soft. The gentle clink of glass bottles at daybreak. If you're old enough, that sound is burned into your memory. The milkman. Every morning, rain or shine, the milkman would make his rounds before most people were awake, delivering fresh milk in glass bottles. Starting at 4 a.m., sometimes earlier. While you were asleep, he was out there. In the dark, in the cold, in the rain, carrying crates of glass bottles. Heavy, fragile, easy to drop. But here's what made the milkman special. He wasn't just delivering milk. He was a community fixture. Many milkmen served the same routes for decades. They knew their customers by name, knew their habits, knew their families. Homes would leave out empty bottles with money tucked under them, sometimes with notes. 2 pints today, please? Can you add a dozen eggs? We're on holiday next week, no delivery. And the milkman would make the exchange while everyone slept. But beyond deliveries, milkmen were unofficial neighborhood watchdogs. They were often the first to notice if something was wrong. Elderly resident hadn't collected yesterday's bottles? Milkmen would knock, check on them. Newspapers piling up? Front door left open? Suspicious activity? The milkman saw it, and he'd report it. There are countless stories of milkmen saving lives, finding elderly people who'd fallen and couldn't get up, noticing house fires before they spread, spotting burglars or suspicious characters. They were the eyes and ears of the neighborhood, and they did all this while working in brutal conditions. Winter mornings in Britain? Freezing. Dark, icy roads. Milkmen would slip on ice, drop bottles, cut their hands on broken glass. Summer mornings? Milk would spoil quickly. Had to move fast. And the money? Terrible. Absolute pittance. But they did it anyway, because it was their job, their route, their community. The decline began in the 1970s as supermarkets offered cheaper milk and refrigerators became standard in every home. Why wait for the milkman when you can just buy milk at Tesco? By the 1990s, home milk delivery had become a luxury rather than a necessity. Now, it's almost completely extinct. You get your milk from a supermarket, in a plastic bottle, that you throw away. No personal connection, no community bond, just a transaction. The milkman was more than a delivery service. He was part of the fabric of British life, and we lost that. Number, please. These words, spoken by predominantly female voices, connected Britain for decades. Before automated systems, before you could just dial a number directly, every single phone call was connected manually by telephone exchange operators. Picture this, a massive room, dozens of women, seated before switchboards with hundreds, sometimes thousands, of cables and plugs. You pick up your phone, an operator answers. Number, please. You tell her the number you want. She physically connects your line to the recipient's line using cables and plugs. Manually, for every call, in the entire country. The job required remarkable dexterity, plugging and unplugging cables at lightning speed, incredible memory, memorizing hundreds of numbers and extensions, perfect telephone etiquette, even with rude callers, lightning-fast reflexes, infinite patience. And here's the mad part. Operators were privy to the most intimate details of community life. They could hear conversations. They knew who was calling whom. They knew secrets, affairs, business deals, family drama, medical emergencies. They heard everything. This led to a strict code of confidentiality. The best operators were known for their total discretion. If you couldn't keep your mouth shut, you were sacked immediately. The profession was almost exclusively female, and the requirements were strict. You had to be single. If you got married, you had to resign. This rule lasted until the 1960s. Well-spoken, proper English, no regional accents in some exchanges. Have arms long enough to reach across the switchboard. Yes, this was an actual requirement. Under a certain age, usually under 30. Basically, they wanted young, unmarried women who could work long hours for low pay, and then disappear when they got married. Exploitation? Absolutely. But thousands of women did it anyway. Because it was one of the few respectable jobs available to them. The work was intense. During busy periods, operators would handle hundreds of calls per hour. Plug, connect, you're through. Unplug, plug, connect, you're through. Unplug, over and over, for hours, with no breaks. Your hands would cramp, your back would ache from sitting, your voice would go hoarse, but you kept going, because if the calls didn't get connected, the system failed. The profession began declining in the 1960s as automated exchanges were introduced. By the 1980s, direct dialing had mostly replaced operators. Now you just tap a screen. The call connects instantly. You don't think about the women who used to manually connect every single call, who memorized thousands of numbers, who worked at impossible speeds, who kept everyone's secrets. They were the human internet, mate. And modern workers couldn't do their job for 1 hour. My hands hurt. This is repetitive strain injury. I need a break. Where's my ergonomic equipment? Those women did it for 8 to 12 hours straight, 6 days a week. And they smiled and said, "Number, please?" Every single time. Respect. So next time you tap a screen and complain that life's too hard, remember the women who ran an entire nation's conversations with cables, memory, and sheer nerve. No algorithms, no automation, just humans holding the system together. If you respect that kind of grit, the forgotten jobs, the brutal work, the people history forgot, subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment telling me which job shocked you the most, or which one you know you wouldn't last a single shift doing. Because this channel isn't about nostalgia, it's about perspective. And trust me, we're just getting started.